in the President's address, and this motion was seconded by Mr. Lusale Simbao, who is a Luansha constituency.
And 18, First Deputy Proceedings, motion stands adjourned. It does continue today, and yesterday the House adjourned accordingly at 18:56. That's it. That's the business that was considered on the floor of the House yesterday, Wednesday, 4th March.
(2025) the outcome of as follows. Of course, we expect announcements if there will be any urgent matters without notice, and of course we have 2 ministerial statements.
All right, so regarding statements, we do expect Her Honor the Vice President to make a ministerial statement on the floods affecting some parts of the country. We expect the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock ministerial statement on the plan in all parliamentary constituencies.
We have 4 ordinary questions. These 4 under Standing Order 80. And we'll go through the details of these questions. So question 242 is expected to come from Ms. Melisiana Apiri. She is the Minister of Parliament. She has for education. Now, Ms. Find out for paying rural hardship allowance. In B, whether teachers in Milan's parliamentary constituency are entitled to rural hardship allowance, and if so, why the teachers are not paid the allowance.
Would we expect Mr. Minyani Zulu of Nyimba to ask the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development a question in 4 parts. That's whether the government has any plans to construct a bridge across Belita River on the Vizumba-Champanji Road in Nyimba Parliamentary constituency. If so, when the plans will be implemented, what the estimated cost of the project is, and if there are no such plans, why.
Mr. Edgar Singombe is a Dundumwenzi constituency member of Parliament. He has a question.
Whether the government has any plans to construct a stadium in Lundazi district. If so, when the plans will be implemented, and if there are no such plans, why. So those are the 4 questions for oral answer understanding order number 80 that will be considered on the floor of the House.
After consideration of those 4 ordinary questions, the House now will consider there will be resumption of debate rather on the motion which was raised by Kantibia Member of Parliament, Mr. Sunday Chanda. This is the President's address. Now, when the House, when business was interrupted yesterday, Namwala Member of Parliament, Mr. Mapani, was debating. So we expect him to continue debating from where he ended yesterday.
And yesterday, Madam Speaker, in one of her announcements, did actually inform the House that debate on the motion of thanks, which actually commenced yesterday, would last for 10 days. And as the practice for 7 days, while Cabinet and provincial ministers would debate during the last 3 days. And so yesterday did encourage honorable members to debate early and not to wait for the last minute, as there will be no time due to business of Parliament to actually continue the motion of thanks. And so that's it to be considered Wednesday, 5th March 2025. 2 ministerial statements, one coming from the Vice President on some parts of the country, going to come from the Minister of Fisheries, Livestock. Are closer to you. Pleasant viewing.
Parliament, Madam Speaker.
Tendency of Zambia, proud and free, land of wealth and joy in unity, victors in the struggle for our right. We want freedom's fight, oh, one, strong and free. Africa is let us all have people join us one, brothers under the sun, oh one, strong and free. One land and one nation is our cry, dignity and peace is Zambia's sky, like a noble eagle in its flight. Zambia, praise to thee, oh one, strong and free. Praise be to God, praise be, bless our great Zambia, Zambia, Zambia. Remain we stand under the flag of our land. Praise to thee, oh one, strong and free.
Prayer. Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and the just government of the people, we beseech you to consider with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important responsibilities in this land. Let your blessing descend upon us here in Parliament assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our daily through a manner and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our land. As you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Tuned in to Parliamentary television, live pictures on your screen as we wait for your quorum to be constituted. As soon as that happens, our business will resume. 1/3 of members of Parliament need in order for business to be transacted on the floor of the House.
Yes, indeed. So we have two ministerial statements. The first one to be
Order. Members wish to recognize the presence of a assistant director I wish, on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, to receive our guests and warmly welcome her in our midst. I thank you. The next honorable members, I also wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Kaunda Square Secondary School in Lusaka District. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, our visitors in I also wish to recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Phoenix Pre- and Primary School in Lusaka District. On Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. Agent notice, the honorable member.
Thank you for honor the Vice President. Honor the President on the 20th of January this year by the name of owner had 400 and from him corporations by cadres, and part of that contingent was from ZNS. Confiscated bags of millimil from the gentleman, and when this gentleman called his, the lawyer went to the DP's office to try and reason with him. The DPS issued a severe threat. Speaker, you are a more seasoned lawyer than I am. You made your name in the legal fraternity. You know, someone to say, I'll sort you out and I'll ensure that I deal with you, that in itself is an assault. So the DPS issued these threats, and again, 200 get all this is happening, Madam Speaker. There is no sin given to the victims. That these bags of millimil cannot be accounted for. So I've brought this matter before the where we are. Innocent people are being victimized. The real smugglers are going scot-free. I have personally had to deal with people that had vehicles, about 10 of them, taking millimil into Congo. And these people, when you report this matter to the, nothing is done, but this matter papers has had 720 bags of millimil confiscated from him by the DPS. So I seriously seek the VIP's indulgence. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member for Kafulafuta. That does not sound like a matter that can be raised as a matter, urgent matter without notice. For me, it's a matter that can be raised with the relevant authorities, the police, for example. If the local police cannot be able to help, I'm sure you can even go to the headquarters. And also, since Honorable members, please do not interject. When you are corrected, then you go and run videos to say that the presiding officers are engaging you. It's unbecoming of honorable member. Do not engage me and do not interject. So if honorable member Fukafulafuta will even report the matter to her honor, the Vice President. I don't know if you have engaged the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs, the Honorable Minister of Defense. There must be a reason why this is happening. Your national service mealie meal is being sold under different conditions. So there have been instances where people have been selling this mealie meal at a higher price. So that's why there have been this. But I'm sure it's a matter that you can engage the authorities and be able to resolve. Definitely, it's not a matter that should be brought to the House. Because bringing a matter to the House, it just gains the public gets to know about it. But in terms of resolving the issue, it's not resolved. If he has another set of maize by meeting you again, it's likely that they'll visit him. So engage. Being a member of parliament, help him engage the relevant authorities and see how best you can resolve the matter. So the honorable member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Lundazi to raise a matter of urgent, a matter and not to the directed to her honor, the Vice President.
You may proceed, Honorable.
Madam Speaker, the whole of Untitimila Ward, Kachenche, Kachete area in Lundazi, Madam Speaker, the fields of maize have been tramped up by elephants. This matter is bordering on food security for the people, and they had borrowed money, some of them to buy the fertilizer. What is happening, Madam Speaker, the people are very annoyed. And some of the things which I have here, they said, if you are not going to do anything, then you should ask the elephants to vote for you. Madam Speaker, no, let me finish, because this matter is affecting not only the Member of Parliament, but it is also affecting the councillors and also the President. So the challenge which is there is that the elephants coming from Malawi, last year it happened in the same way, and this time the people have put, and they are about to start everything. Fires. The people in are very annoyed. I brought this matter, indulgence of the Vice President. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member for Lundazi. I think it was only yesterday when the Honorable Minister of Agriculture was made reference to that same issue of animal-human conflict. Just the other week, the Honorable Minister of Tourism was here again talking about human-animal conflict. I even mentioned that we had appointed a committee of one in Honorable Member for Chama South. The report has been submitted, and the Office of the Clerk is working on something. So it appears this human-animal conflict is with us. It's here for some reason, I don't know whether people are in the way of the animals or animals are in the way of the people, or is both. Because I know in Botswana, for example, even in Kenya, when we went to Kenya, we saw animals living side by side with human beings. Buffaloes were grazing together with the cattle and so forth, so on and so forth. And the other day I saw another video, I think it was Shangombo, where some maize had been trampled on and it has not even dried up. So it's a big problem. I think, as I said earlier on, when we appointed the honorable member for Chama South as a committee of one, that we need, all of us, we need to think and find solutions to this problem, because it will keep coming and we will bring it on the floor of the House, but if we don't take measures ourselves to correct the situation, we will keep on coming, complaining, but there will be no solution. So let's engage and see how best. I'll urge the office of the clerk to facilitate the processing of that report that the honorable member for Chama South submitted, so that we see a way forward. But raising it as an urgent matter urgent matter without notice, it's not helping us any. Or the other option is, what role is ZAWA doing? Are we reporting these issues to ZAWA? Maybe we report to ZAWA. Those are some of the issues that we can come up with. There was another suggestion that maybe a fence is built or something like that. We have to explore and find solutions. Otherwise, we have to accept that we are keeping animals and animals have to live with us. It's a big issue. Thank you very much. We go to the next. I have permitted Her Honor the Vice President to present a ministerial statement. Her Honor the Vice President.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for according me the opportunity to update this august House and the nation at large on the flood situation in the country during the current 2024-2025 rainy season. This is in response to an urgent matter without notice which was raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kanyama constituency, Mr. Monty Chinkoli. Madam Speaker, before I proceed, allow me to express our heartfelt sympathy for the citizens affected by the floods in various parts of the country. Regrettably, so far, 4 deaths have been recorded as a result of these floods in Lusaka district. We extend our condolences to the families of the departed ones. Our thoughts and prayers are with those impacted, and we remain committed to providing the necessary support and assistance during this challenging time. This resolve by government is exemplified by the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who last week took time to visit some of the affected areas in Lusaka and to assure the affected families of government's support. Madam Speaker, the Zambia Meteorological Department in the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment projected that as a result of La Nina conditions, we will experience normal to above normal rainfall, resulting into flooding during the 2024-2025 rain season. In response to the projection, the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit, DMMU, in collaboration with relevant stakeholders, developed the National Multi-Hazard Contingency Plan, which serves as the basis for disaster preparedness and resource mobilization every year. This is in line with the provision of the Disaster Management Act No. 13 of 2010 of the laws of Zambia and the National Disaster Management Policy of 2024. Madam Speaker, the 2024 to 2025 National Contingency Plan identified 69 districts to be at risk of low to severe riverine flooding in all provinces across the country. Further, 33 districts were predicted to be at high risk of experiencing flash flooding in all provinces. Recognizing the areas identified as being at high risk of flooding, the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit proactively launched a sensitization campaign to warn and prepare at-risk communities to enable them take early action. This initiative, which was conducted in November and December 2024, has continued to be implemented in all identified high-risk areas. Madam Speaker, government is disseminating early warning messages through bulk messages via ZICTA, generated by the Early Warning Subcommittee of the National Disaster Management Technical Committee of National Disaster Management Technical Committee, the SADC Humanitarian and Emergency Operations Center SHOC, and the African Union AU Continental Bulletin. Further, continuous monitoring of hazards such as floods is being undertaken at the National Emergency Operations Center, which is housed within the National Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit. Madam Speaker, in accordance with the forecasts outlined in the National Contingency Plan, the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit has received reports of flooding in the following districts: Lusaka, Gwembe, Chibombo, Kabwe, Chitambo, Luano, Mkushi, Chongwe, Chilanga, Itejiteji, Namwala, Mazabuka, and Zambezi. In Lusaka province, the following areas have been severely affected. 1, Kalundu and surrounding areas in Chilanga district. Villa Park area, that is Road 55, Kanyama constituency in Lusaka district. 3, Blue Water area, Chawama constituency in Lusaka district. Foxdale, 4, Foxdale and surrounding areas, Mandevu constituency in Lusaka district. 5, George Compound, Matero constituency in Lusaka district. 6, Chaisa Compound, Mandevu constituency in Lusaka district. 7, Ballaston area, Matero constituency in Lusaka district. 8, Garden House area, Kanyama constituency in Lusaka district. 9, Raphael Chota area, Mandevu constituency in Lusaka district. 10, Ward, Ngwerere East, that is in Chongwe constituency of Lusaka province. Madam Speaker, in compliance with the policy and legislative for disaster risk management committee at national level have been conducting rapid assessments to ascertain the impacts of the floods and identify the required reconstruction and rehabilitation. Initial assessments in over 694 households have been adversely affected by the floods. a total of 195 households have been displaced from their habitual residences, now residing in MU, providing humanitarian support. The camps set up for the internally displaced persons so far include the Chitukuko Skills Training Center in George Compound, accommodating 65 households, and the Chaisa Skills Training Center in In addition, we have recently camped 36 households, that is up to just about Monday, at John Lang Primary School in Kanyama constituency. These will be removed soon from the school facility as government intends to provide rental relief to the affected households. Earlier, we had 22 households in Raphael Chota Ward, Mandevu constituency, relief and have since relocated and are reintegrated in the community. The floods have caused extensive damage to critical infrastructure, including crossing points such as the Mandevu-Ngombe crossing, and have disrupted private trading and business activities. As at 28 February 2025, 134 crossing points have been affected in the 10 provinces countrywide. Madam Speaker, in order to avert and mitigate the adverse effects of the floods, government, in collaboration with stakeholders, is implementing immediate saving and life solutions. These interventions include the provision of rental relief, the establishment of disaster relief encampments, and the provision of food and non-food items in the short term. Additional short-term interventions include the dewatering of flooded areas, drainage works, and rehabilitation or reconstruction of crossing points. In the long term, government is working to address the structural drivers of flooding through the aim of the Act and the Lusaka Storm Water Master Plan works on outflow drainages. These measures and impact of potential future flooding. Other long-term plans include interventions such as construction of dams around Lusaka, water harvesting. This is not sustainable water resources. The hardships caused by, we are also grateful for the abundant rain that has blessed our nation. This rainfall will help prevent the hunger we faced due to the 2023-2024 severe drought. In collaboration with stakeholders, we will continue to work tirelessly to safeguard our citizens from the effects of floods. Through these concerted efforts, we are not only demonstrating our unwavering commitment to protecting our people, but also reinforcing our resolve to build resilient communities capable of withstanding the challenges posed by flooding. Lastly, I want to remind this august House that climate change is here to stay. And therefore, we should all recognize the urgency of it and work together to combat its effects. Let us unite in our efforts to develop sustainable practices within our communities to mitigate these impacts, ensuring that our actions today safeguard the well-being of our future generations. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement presented by Her Honor the Vice President. The Honorable Member for Kanyama.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And Her Honor the Vice President, I want to thank you for this update that you have given us. Indeed, Madam Speaker, I can attest the fact that government has come in to intervene in the effects of floods, where officers from DMMU are busy assessing those people who have been affected with the floods, and some relief actually is being, shown, and we have seen, giving us water bowsers, and the under have actually had about 3 TLBs where we are trying to help, out remove waters. And for that, we would want to thank the government. And for me, that is in a short term. My question to one of the Vice President is doing to ensure that there are, in event we have got such, floods, what are the plans that the government has to alleviate, such challenges from the people? I submit.
Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member who actually asked this question that we are responding to today. And I believe because his constituency is one of those that are really affected. I hope I got him right. I think he's acknowledged the fact that we are doing a lot to try and give the immediate response to just safeguard life and to save life. But in the long term, the Honourable Member, in fact, I should make him answer to that, because he's with me many times that we are talking about what we should do, particularly in Kanyama. Because in my statement, Madam Speaker, I mentioned the long term, and I mentioned one critical thing that we are doing. I mentioned a program which we are calling Renewal, Lusaka Renewal. We are working, basically for us to find a long-term solution, we have to identify the problem. Because without knowing what is causing flooding, particularly in Lusaka, we may not find the right response. The honourable members of Lusaka in Lusaka district will agree with me that a lot of it, flooding, yes, there is the natural, the heavy rains, the climate change, a lot of rain coming in one day. But this rain could easily run towards its place of settling. The issue is the dumping of waste in the drainages. A lot of work has been done to make drainages, but the irresponsible behavior that we have as a people of throwing rubbish in the drainage blocks the water. And water by nature will pass through the hills. It will find a way. It will not stay. And this is when water fails or is blocked from the right way, then it bursts into areas that we don't need it to, including into people's houses. That is one reason. One is not just about dumping. The other reason is building in wrong places, unplanned, settlement. People just find a space of land, there's no question, you just go and build. And therefore, waterways are blocked. That is the real problem. And therefore, how do we find a long-term solution? Rather than this year, it is the same. This year, you know, the same places are flooded, and we give food, and we give tents, and we are running to the water by pumping. I think that is not correct. What we are doing is, one, we will continue to sensitize people. We have even gone in the long term to try and resolve this. We have gone as far as compensating people that have built on waterways, so that we can break the infrastructure and allow the water to pass, and probably make also the drainages. That is the way that we will try to stop that. But where will this water go, Madam Speaker? Where will the water go? This is why in my statement I talked of the dams. I think we had the president, when he went round, he did mention that whether we have to buy some farms to create bigger dams where this water has to go, we have to do that. Otherwise, this situation will continue. So in the long term, can we stop this dumping? Can we keep our drainages clean? Can we stop building on waterways? Can we will as government continue to do the drainages, to create drainages and make dams where water can go, and we can manage it and even recycle it. Please don't say we will kill people. You don't just recycle without treating the water. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Kwacha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Your Honor, the Vice President, for that ministerial statement. Flooding in Lusaka has been the order of the day, year in, year out. And a lasting solution, as you put it, Your Honor, the Vice President, is very, very important, because we are looking at Lusaka being the capital city. When do we hope to see serious plans of drainages being constructed in the city of Lusaka, so that we can avoid these serious floods which the town of Lusaka continues to witness year in, year out? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Kwacha for that question. Yes, it has become an annual situation. And from the statements I've made, we have a master plan, for example, but we have to improve it. The reasons that I've given, I thought I've said, unless we remove people from waterways, unless we keep our drainages clean, and indeed, we are working, it is on the plan, to ensure that we can find where to take the water, which can be useful later. That is by constructing dams outside of Lusaka, so that water can be pumped or can go to those places and be used properly. This will then end these perennial issues of floods in Lusaka. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mandevu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to ask her Honour, the Vice President, a question. First of all, I want to thank you, Your Honour, the Vice President, for your statement. In the same vein, I want to thank you and your government for the leadership that you have provided when the floods first hit us. You personally have been to Mandevu. As though that is not enough, last week we had a visit by His Excellency the President, who came to see the flood victims firsthand. Thank you for the assistance that you've been providing to our people. The floods are partly caused because, as alluded to, our people have built in wrong places. I'll give an example. In Kabanana, Garden, and Chaisa, we used to have natural dams and streams. And if we have to end these floodings, these areas, without going too far, need to be restored to their natural ways before they were built on. My question, Your Honor, the Vice President, does government have land to start relocating these people that have built on dams, natural dams that were disturbed by our people? I thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Member for Mandevu. Even when the question may be difficult, but when people appreciate that which has been done, it may not have resolved fully, but appreciating that which is done, it's human nature that the people that are working will work even harder. So thank you for appreciating that which government is doing. I think I totally agree with you, and this is why I'm saying we have even started, you know, compensating people by breaking the infrastructure on the natural waterways. That must be done for us to do anything else. That's the first thing. Then you were saying that is on the restoration of the natural waterways. But you have said, does government have money to do this? We have already started in Kanyama. I think we did break quite a number. And we just have to do it. It's not how much we have as government, because at the end of the day, we are forced to spend. The assistance, Honorable, you have talked about, costs money. And yet there is the inconvenience that comes with it. So whatever, we have to start this. Even land is available. You know, we have the resettlements. Those that may not find the right place within the towns of Lusaka, we have resettlements. After all, Madam Speaker, now the better life is on the land, in farms, in places. So government has to work on money. It may not be done at a go, but this is a program we have started. Already there is money that we need. I'm sure it will be given to us, like they gave us last year, from Finance 2024. We relocated some, we broke some infrastructure in Kanyama. We will continue to do that, sir. We have to do it. Otherwise, the cost becomes even higher when people are already under stress. We have to give them food, we have to move them, we have to find this. So yes, it's not money heaped, but we have to do that. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chinsali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Vice President, the budget for disaster management needs for the year 2025 is to address the current disaster that we have as regards floods. Now, there is this major pronouncement that was made by Mr. President, which you have also alluded to, of course, well intended, that is demolishing structures that have been built waterways. Will mean that when the owners of those houses are demolished, there will be compensations, which will require more budgetary allocation. Already what we have in the budget is not adequate. So my concern is we don't have money to do that desired activity. Are you going to come to for more funds so that these activities additional funding? The answer is yes. When will that?
Honourable members, as we ask, remember other members also want to ask. So if you ask a long question, that means two other members who could have asked will lose out that opportunity. So let's be precise to the point, points of clarification.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Chinsali for that question. This question comes almost every time on the that I will repeat what I've said before because it is the same house. One of the most difficult things to plan for is disaster, because you don't know what will happen, madam. You don't know the extent of disaster and what kind of disaster. Look at last year, we had a drought. And if we waited, that money should have been in the budget under disaster, we would have completely failed. In disaster, that every disaster is provided for. Disaster actually is unforeseen. If you know it will come, you will prevent it probably. So I agree with you that the budget does not carry enough resource to do the interventions that we do, including what we are doing now. The money under disaster will normally come from the general contingents. You call it account what? 99? We don't keep the money in disaster. So when you look at that and then you say, where are they going to get it? That is just something to start with. We always run to the Treasury under their own, the bigger contingents. That's where we run from. But if we run out, surely we will come to ask for supplementary budget, because we will not just spend that something without planning for it. But there is a general bigger plan under the Ministry of Finance. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lufwanyama.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Though my question has been taken by part of Mandevu. Your Honor, the Vice President, thank you for the explanation, and we are grateful to our government for making sure that, you know, Kanyama is being assisted by our men and women in uniform. My question will go to other areas where there is free land, because causes of the flooding, you have mentioned garbage which is being thrown by question, Your Honor the Vice.
Thank you, Her Honor the Vice President.
Very much, Madam the Honourable Member, for the, you know, a question which is also providing an answer. I think when where to take, we should all be. I talked about resettlement schemes we have in Lufwanyama. So there is land to live properly without cramming ourselves, you know, in towns where really we may not do it. That is, you know, helping us to sustain our life. We are too crowded, and therefore the infrastructure failing to hold. Indeed, Honourable, thank you for indicating to all of us that there is free land somewhere. Not just Lufwanyama, in many other places. We have, for example, over 1 million hectares of land under resettlement. If you are able, let's encourage to free. This is why we want resettlements to be developed also to a point, to provide some infrastructure, basic infrastructure, so that when people go there, children will go to school. There will be health facilities. This is what we are, resources available, and we are growing the economy. The economy does well. So yes, we should. Even those whose people, you mention the honorable members, but they know it themselves. You know that in your area, every year, it is give us because of a reason. Surely, Zambia has still land where people can participate. We are one Zambia, one nation. You don't have to be in the same place because that's where your grandparents lived and yet you are unable to sustain yourself. There is land that can be restored. Feeding you, even when it is you who asks for food, you should be embarrassed because Zambians, we are generally not beggars in terms of a personal level. So land is there, madam, and thank you. Lufanyama is one of those that have land where people can cultivate, keep animals, do what you want to do on the land. So I am asking the honorable member for Nyimba to go to another place, not every time human animal.
Thank you. Joined by honorable member. Now he has just left. Honorable member for Chairman North, you can unmute yourself and ask your point of clarification.
Hello. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity. Honorable Madam Speaker, I think my question has already been asked. I wanted to find out also on if the DMMU has adequate allocation to deal with the scale of disasters so that our people are taken care of. So I think the Vice President has already answered that question. I thank you.
Thank you very much. The honorable member for Kaumbwe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President, rural constituencies like mine, Kaumbwe, is prone to flooding. But the factors that contribute to that flooding are natural ones, not artificial ones like in urban areas where people throw rubbish to block the drainages. So we've had situations where water crossing points, I heard in your presentation 134 crossing points were restored. In my constituency, Mpamanzi Bridge, Mwambezi Bridge, just a few others, quite a number, have been affected by flooding. They have actually collapsed, and the embankments have been washed away. How can we access the national disaster monies from the National Contingency Disaster Plan to help restore these water crossing points? Because our CDF 5% disaster component is not enough and it's already allocated. I thank you.
Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the honorable member for Kaumbwe for bringing out the differences between the causes of flooding in urban areas and in rural areas. Saying in rural areas, it's more of natural causes that bring about floods. Maybe just to that, I don't think when these floods come, yes, it would be good for you to talk about bridges because people must move from one point to another. But for people themselves to be flooded in their homes, I think it is avoidable because rural areas has land, and normally the flooding areas will be the river line. And therefore, people must have alternative places within the area. They go up land where they can be, you know, they can stay without getting flooded because they know already. They are indigenous to the area. They know exactly that here water comes every year. It is here where people build everywhere. So the expectation of the rural is not the kind of disaster of water going into homes and things like that. It may happen once in a while because of the intensity of the issues being brought about by climate change. But I think your concern is the crossing points, that there are many crossing points. How do you access the recording? Some of these things we are recording, the 134 crossing points, does not even mean disaster is the to do. Disaster is here. If you look at the list I brought in 2023, early 2023, so bridges that had collapsed. And slowly they go on working on those. But we look at what, you know, some crossing points are so critical that you cannot wait. For example, if we can also call the Rufunsa Eastern Province a crossing point, that is critical, so you can't even wait. You start already working on it. If we look at the washaway bridge in Iteje, I'm just looking at what is happening now. So we also prioritize looking at the resource. It is not necessarily you. All you do is bring it to their attention, and then among ourselves, the ministries, we know we should work on that. Because I've just talked about crossing points, but there are schools, there are clinics, and so on. So what you need, the responsibility you have, number one, is to make us know as government. Then we apportion each other and work on those things. Some may not be done, unfortunately, in the immediate because of the amount of resource available. So that's what you do. When you tell us, not here, I can't start recording in Mwambeji, and it is better you come properly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, somebody for joining us virtually. The Honorable Member from Bavala.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And thank you so much, Her Honor, the Vice President. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, and thank you so much, Her Honor, the Vice President, for the opportunity to raise this follow-up question. I just wanted to know what whether your office through DMMU has got a 24-hour response to our disaster emergencies, which we have faced. Like in my constituency, it took over 2 months to get a response from the District Disaster Management Committee to respond to the Nairobi disaster, where we lost 80 houses. And that puts us in a very big quandary as government to how we respond to these disasters on an emergency. We've been talking about the 24 hours, 48 hours response. A contingent amount which you can put for your office through disaster management to respond immediately when a disaster strikes, like we have had these floods. I thank you.
Thank you, Her Honor, the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the Honorable Member. Just to make it as brief as I can, do we have, maybe I'll use capacity or resource to respond within the shortest period? We do respond depending on the gravity of the disaster, but generally that's why we have what is called pre-positioning. Because if people are going to, if the houses are going to be flooded, filled with water in the night or in the evening, we cannot say you wait until tomorrow. We will come on. The pre-positioning are the things that we put. Every province, for example, should be able to have some tents that they will run to when there is need. immediately respond to. We have certain foods that are necessary in the different parts of the country so that we can respond quickly. There are things that may take a little long, except I couldn't, Madam Speaker, understand the actual example that he gave and exactly what had happened. But we try to respond within 24 hours. Under disaster, we tell ourselves that we don't sleep. If the disaster happens, we must run. And if we have the capacity, we must respond immediately. So pre-positioning is important in all the provinces so that we can respond as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. The last question will be from the Honorable Member for Gwembe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Your Honor, the Vice President, we are so happy with your strategic interventions when there are such things like the floods, and we appreciate for quick interventions. Your Honor, the Vice President, one of the districts that has been affected is Gwembe, and we saw a powerful delegation led by the DMMU, Zambia National Service and Infrastructure. They came through and found a number of crossing points were actually damaged. 4 of our wards have been completely cut off. We can't get FRMAs to those wards. And this has been perennial, Your Honor, the Vice President. Now, my question is there an assurance that these crossing points can be done once and for all? Because year in and once it rains, those are the first floods that are ever there in Gwembe. I thank you.
Honor the Vice President.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the Honourable Member for Gwembe. His constituency is prone to all sorts of disasters, and we find ourselves there several times because of the terrain that is there. What I've said about the crossing points, Madam, is that indeed we will do as many as we can. There is assessment to see what is most critical, because we may not have the resources. But it's not up to me to say that will be done and that will be done. I'm sure the assessment will be done through infrastructure. And then they'll say, here we must, because this will lead to that. And then they'll prioritize. We would want to do everything. But I would be probably misleading people when I say everything will be done, because it may be impossible. But that's the ideal. So they will look at those bridges that have been washed away, where it is necessary that, unless that is there, there will be no movement. I think my colleague is listening. Like you have said, when we came there, it was a combination of different departments of government to see who is looking at this and that. So yes, we will work on those, but some colleagues, even the 134 is not everything, because the rains are still here. We may have some more. Like I have just received another document giving me another thing. So we will continue to work. We must work hard as government, but when we fail, please, you can also look at your CDF and play with it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That concludes that segment. Before we go to the next, I have one more announcement to make. Honorable members, I wish to also recognize the presence in the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Lake Road PTA School in Lusaka District. Again, one of the schools that my children went to. On behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, I warmly welcome our visitors in our midst. I thank you. You may take your seats. I have also permitted the Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock to present a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, I would like to thank you for according me this opportunity to deliver a ministerial statement to this august House and indeed the people of Zambia. Madam Speaker, as you may recall, on Tuesday, 25th February 2025, you directed that I should come back to the House today to give an update on the implementation and planned activities of the stocking and restocking program being implemented by my ministry in 2025. This was following the debate that ensued from question 218. Before I proceed, let me take this opportunity to thank the then Acting Minister of Fisheries and Livestock, Honorable Elias Mubanga, commonly known as Smalls, for ably handling the question and also all the members that contributed to the debate. Madam Speaker, permit me to start my address of this important matter by providing some clarity and context to the terms stocking and restocking in order for the honorable members and indeed the Zambians out there to appreciate the difference. The House may wish to note that stocking refers to placement of livestock packages in areas where they have not been part of the normal livelihoods of the inhabitants. This is aimed at promoting the livestock rearing in non-traditional livestock communities. Restocking, on the other hand, refers to placement of livestock in areas where the livestock populations have been decimated by various causes such as disease, natural disasters, etc., etc. Madam Speaker, having provided context to the two terms, may I now take this opportunity to assure this august House that government, through my ministry, is keen on ensuring that the stocking and restocking program achieves its intended results and contributes positively to the livestock sector and the economic growth of this country. The main objective of the stocking and restocking program is to empower vulnerable but viable households with alternative livelihoods for poverty reduction through improved incomes and consequently enhanced food.
Order. Honorable members, can we tone down? As you can hear, there is no sound, so I can hear whatever you are saying from here. So please, can you lower your voices so that we listen to the Honorable Minister? Sorry for disturbing you. Honorable Minister, may proceed. Okay, I'll read that again. The main objective of the stocking and restocking program is to empower vulnerable but viable households with alternative livelihoods for poverty reduction through improved incomes and consequently enhanced food and nutrition security. This program is therefore implemented throughout the country with financial support from the Zambian government and our cooperating partners. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that my ministry facilitated the distribution of livestock packages to 31,194 poor households that received beef and dairy cattle, pigs, goats, rabbits, and chickens under the stocking and restocking program over the period 2019 to 2024. In order to ensure sufficient pasture for the livestock, recipients are also empowered with pasture seeds to cultivate. To this end, an additional 80,000 households received forage seeds for on-farm cultivation, leading to 21,323 hectares of pasture land being developed, thereby improving livestock nutrition. These interventions have not only assisted households to ensure food security, increase protein intake, and enhance livestock production and productivity, but are also contributing towards mitigate the impact of climate change through the restoration of rangelands. Madam Speaker, arising from the debate that took place on Tuesday, 25th February, some members of Parliament expressed views that would point to the fact that
these numbers were a drop in the ocean for their constituencies, and that my ministry needed to restock more livestock. Unfortunately, this is a misconception. My ministry distributes these packages based in the principles of equity, progressive distribution, and pass on the gift. Madam Speaker, stocking and restocking is therefore not aimed at providing livestock for consumption, as was insinuated on the floor of the House a while back. In this vein, it is unfortunate to hear that even our own members in this August House attested to participating in a feast of livestock that was restocked in their constituencies. It is the expectations of government that such programs, which are meant to empower our people, are supported, and that we work together to ensure their success. Madam Speaker, to ensure that the livestock stocked or restocked reproduces and grows in numbers to attain the 7.4 million by 2027, the program is implemented through the Pass on the Gift. The Pass on the Gift is premised on the fact that financial resources are not sufficient to cover every deserving citizen at the same time, but that over time, more people can benefit it. In this regard, my ministry distributes animals to targeted farmers in the community that have the potential to grow this livestock and pass on to other farmers, and the selection of these farmers is based on prescribed selection criteria. Madam Speaker, allow me now to outline the selection criteria used to identify beneficiary households. The selection of beneficiaries is conducted by the Livestock Selection Committee, commonly known as LSC. This committee is appointed by the community members and works closely with my ministry to carry out a due diligence on the community to be stocked or restocked. After analysis, the community needs, the LSC prioritizes communities that exhibit a need for additional support in the selection process and avoids communities that favor handouts to ensure sustainable development. The following factors indicate the suitability of the area for rearing livestock: pasture availability, water availability, infrastructure, access markets, and access to support services. Madam Speaker, after the community selection process, the Livestock Selection Committee will choose beneficiary groups from within selected community. The group to be selected should be legally registered with the Registrar of Cooperatives, the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, the Patent and Companies Registration Agency, PACRA, or any other government agency. In addition, the group should have been in existence for not less than 3 years. Composed of members from different families, have a membership that is gender inclusive and should express written willingness to participate in the program. Madam Speaker, beyond the selection of the groups, my ministry provides technical support and guidance on the selection of beneficiaries' households, verification of the beneficiaries, and farmer training to the beneficiary households. This process, if not well handled, can easily be politicized and lead to poor targeting of beneficiaries. To this end, my ministry, in its quest to continuously improve this process, have developed a handbook to guide communities on the selection criteria. I'll be sending this handbook for approval to Cabinet, and once approved, the handbook will be circulated to our district offices. Madam Speaker, at this point, allow me to share with this August House the planned stocking and restocking program for 2025. My ministry has made a budgetary provision of 11.5 million kwacha for this program. These funds will be used for coordination and to procure 630 cattle, 1,500 goats, 5,000 village chickens, and 1,000 rabbits for stocking and restocking. In addition, this intervention is also being carried out by other institutions mainly non-state actors. And my ministry has started engaging various stakeholders to ensure wider coverage. The proposed distribution of stock in as follows. In Central Province, 185 cattle, 104 goats, and 800 chickens. 2. Copperbelt Province, 600 chickens and 100 rabbits. Eastern Province, 159 cattle, 416 goats, 400 chickens, and 100 rabbits. 4. Luapula Province, 145 cattle, 252 goats, 400 chickens, and 100 rabbits. Lusaka Province, 400 chickens. Muchinga Province, 138 cattle, 104 goats, 200 chickens. Northern Province, 27 cattle and 520 goats. Northwestern Province, 127 cattle and 400 chickens. Southern Province, 128 cattle, 800 chickens and 200 rabbits. Western Province, 146 cattle, 104 goats and 1,000 chickens. Madam Speaker, this program is ongoing, and as I stated earlier, over 31,000 households have already benefited going forward. And based on the principle of progressive distribution, households that benefit in previous benefit again. The process will continue in 2026 and beyond. At this point, Madam Speaker, I urge members who have not benefit and will not benefit in 2025 to be patient. Madam Speaker, the House may wish this program is very emotive, and therefore its implementation has not been without challenges. One of the major challenges is extreme political interference. We have sadly in this regard, is a very important program for increasing the livestock population as well as improving the livelihood, food and nutrition security for the targeted communities in the country. To this end, I appeal to all members not to politicize this program, but rather support its implementation. In this vein, I would like to urge all honorable members of this August House to partner with my ministry in seriously sensitizing their communities on the guidelines and the pass on the gift principle to ensure the program is sustainable. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement presented by the Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock. The Honorable Member for Masaiti.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for your detailed and precise statement. Honorable Minister, how often are you carrying out immunization programs for the cows, post fever, for these cows that you are stocking and restocking, especially to the smallholder farmers across the country? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, though that question is not yet covered in my ministerial statement, however, I'll try to answer it the best I can. Madam Speaker, immunization follows a program that is laid out per district. So if there is such
Member for Chinsali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I take note that from this progressive program, Muchinga is going to get about 138 cattle. I would like to find out, looking at the districts that we have in Muchinga province, what model are you going to take in district gets what number of cattle? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, Muchinga province actually will get 125 beef cattle and 2 beef bulls, which will be distributed in Mbesuma and Kanchivia.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, just to remind the Minister that he should be mindful when he's speaking to the nation through this August House. Because in his statement, he has made some insinuations to the fact that some members of this August House were actually confirming feasting on his stocks being distributed. So it makes a clarification on that, Madam Speaker, so that we can. However, my question is a rider on the question posed by the Honorable MP for Chinsali. You are saying you are distributing 188 cattle to Muchinga, 104 goats, and about 200 chickens. When responding to the Honorable MP for Chinsali, you said that these cattle will be at the Mbesuma Breeding Center. The question, your statement was to the effect that restocking programs in the constituencies. How then do we get constituencies in Muchinga benefit from these numbers that you have indicated here? 188 cattle, 104, I don't know if I got you correct, goats, and 200 cattle. And as you respond to that, how do you ensure that that political interference you referred to is not entertained? What mechanisms have you put in place to ensure that there is no political interference in such programs as you distribute the livestock? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue is about availability of funds. If the resource envelope was big, we could give all constituencies 100 cows or whatever. But this is according to what was approved in this August House. So we'll stick to that and ensure that we distribute equitably. Because you might note that other areas have already benefited. So we are not going to put back or put in additional livestock in areas that have already benefited in the past. Madam Speaker, to answer the question on political interference, I did indicate in my response that we are preparing a guide so that once Cabinet approves it, it will be distributed to all our officers, and then we should be able to overcome the political interference that we are experiencing currently. I submit.
Probably you can comment on the issue of the consuming of the animals, because I think I don't want to answer, but how did you come up with that comment that honorable members were saying they were feasting on the animals? Maybe if you can clarify, that's what the honorable member for Shiwangandu was asking for clarification before is misunderstood. You are all misunderstood by the members of the public who are listening.
Madam Speaker, it was a general statement. Actually, this happened in Chilubi, where we put in some livestock, and they I think I'll end there, Madam Speaker. I submit.
It was relish. The honorable member for Magoe.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, thank you for this statement. I think this program is long overdue. It's important that we restock. But I want to find out from you, Honorable Minister, how is the government incorporating climate change resilience into cattle restocking program to ensure that farmers are prepared for future climate-related challenges? Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, climate resilience is being dealt with in form of training of the farmers. Mostly these restocking and stocking are for smallholder farmers, and there is a program that is currently going on. I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving a chance to the people of Lundazi to ask a follow-up question to the Honorable Minister, who has been very frank, and I'm happy that slowly you are now accepting that political interference is really a menace. It is a serious challenge, Madam Speaker, because even just general workers who have been employed under the Ministry of Health, they have just taken the party list and they are the ones who are in the ministry. You can question me, but when you come to Lundazi, you find that that is what is happening. Now the question which I have.
Honorable Member for Lundazi, let me guide. Order. Honorable Member for Lundazi, let's not bring in issues of the Ministry of Health. We are talking about fisheries and livestock. So if you are asking a question, let it relate to what the Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock has said. Let's not politicize the ministerial statement on restocking. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was just responding to what the Minister was confirming, that political interference is a menace.
The Honorable Member for Lundazi, I have guided. Ask your point of clarification.
The question which I have for you, Honorable Minister, is how many have you allocated specifically to Lundazi, so that I can go and deal with those political people who always try to interfere. If I can have the number, I will know, and also you give me who are the beneficiaries, so that we can be in a position to protect our poor people who don't have political power. I submit.
I'm sure the Honorable Member for Lundazi doesn't need to wait and ask that question on the floor of the House on how much and who has been given. I suggest, I don't know if the Honorable Minister would have that information now, but if he doesn't, if in the event that he doesn't have, I would urge the Honorable Member for Lundazi to visit the Honorable Minister to get that information. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable. Madam Speaker, I did indicate that for Eastern Province, 32 beef and dairy cattle, 416 goats, 400 chickens, and 100 rabbits. This will go to Chipata, Chasefu, Chama, Lundazi, and Usangazi. I submit. I don't have the actual breakdown of how many and what type is going to Lundazi. I submit.
So I've already guided. The Honorable Member for Chipili.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, in your statement, you said that there will be selecting committee. Now I want to find out whether this selected committee will be based at the national level, provincial level, or district level. Thank you.
I don't know if the Honorable Minister got the question. I didn't get. Okay. The Honorable Minister of Livestock and Fisheries.
Madam Speaker, these selection committees are at district level because it will be sort of a pinpoint as to which district needs what. Then there will be selection, and the selection committee will also select their beneficiary, which are the cooperatives, so that they can undergo appropriate training before they receive the livestock as submitted.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Namwala.
Thank you so very much, Madam Speaker. Through you to the Minister. Minister, is there any intention by government to employ more vet officers to ensure the well-being of these animals we are restocking? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament. Madam Speaker, the issue of employing more officers really depends on the budget. And let me take this opportunity to inform the House that these services have now been devolved to the district councils. So the planning part will still be done by my ministry, but the operation part will be done by district councils as submitted.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kanchibia.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Honourable Minister, thank you so much for your statement. The question from Kanchibia would be that the pass-on benefit program, if that is what it's called, do we expect Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock, which clearly sits on a sector that could contribute significantly to the country's GDP. When do we see this particular sector or this particular program pushing us to become a net exporter of meat products? And I ask this question, Honourable Minister, in the context of what countries like Botswana have done, countries like Namibia have done, Botswana Desert beating Zambia to become a net exporter. What are we doing as a country, what are we doing as a ministry to probably reposition this program, reconfigure this program in the context of not just providing household food security, but to ensure that the country becomes a net exporter of beef products? Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, Zambia has really lagged in terms of beef exports. However, this government is pursuing actively. They are implemented this year by introducing compartments which are disease-free. That will facilitate the export of beef. So this is coming very soon, and we should soon be coming to Parliament to come and announce the introduction of compartments and how it will operate to facilitate export of beef to other countries. Submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, I'm just disappointed that as it has been all along, that Nyimba is always forgotten on issues to do with Eastern Province. Even the Minister of Livestock has forgotten us. Madam Speaker, the question I have to the Minister of Livestock. Minister, the Person project is a very good project. It's an excellent project. And if you look at the performance of Person project under the Ministry of Community Development, like in Nyimba, it has been a success. It's a success story. The Person project under the Ministry of Livestock, it has been a problem because of what you commented on, political interference. Minister, some years back, Nyimba was given livestock, especially in terms of cattle. Today, your ministry has not followed up where the cattle went. And this is a stocking program we're talking about. So my question, Minister, is it possible that your people at the district level can also copy what the Ministry of Community Development do by following up each and every Person project? Because for Nyimba today, it should be 8 years or 7 years down the line, would have had people passing on the cattle. But we all know that there was a political interference and this cattle went to political players. So what is your comment on that one? Are you going to follow up the Passion Project, which happened some years back in Nyimba, because you have the records, or you let it be the way it is. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I did indicate in my statement that those districts or areas that will not receive this year's package should just be patient enough to wait for their turn. Madam Speaker, we did allude to the fact that we have had challenges implementing this program. This program started quite a long time ago, and I don't want to start going back and mentioning, government started this program because it was a disaster. Now we want to make it straight so that everybody equitably benefit, I submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kankoyo.
I thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in Kankoyo, through the grants component, we have 50 cooperatives who have received 15,000 kwacha each, and they are looking for goats as a means of empowering them. With what the Minister has put in place, Honorable Minister, they are just looking for the quality type of goats which they can buy and be able to raise as a cooperative. How can you support this initiative, Honorable Minister? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We took a trip to Egypt where we learned quite a lot. Madam Speaker, we'll be rolling out a vigorous program of artificial insemination, which will improve on the genetics of these animals. And I'm sure we'll be able to come to Mufurila to sit with you and advise your people on how to improve on their livestock. Submit.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Madam Speaker, I have no question. I don't know, maybe it is my neighbor who just pressed on the bush. Thank you.
I think the floods are going towards Solwezi East now. The Honorable Member for Pemba.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Minister, what is the total number that you are targeting to be given? I believe the target is the cooperatives. So what is the number targeted to be given to the cooperatives for these animals once you dispatch them?
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Member of Pemba. Madam Speaker, I did indicate that all this stocking and restocking go to cooperatives. So that is how it will happen, and that is what is happening now. I submit.
The Honorable Member for Kamfinsa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister of Livestock, you are aware from the figures that your officers have given you that in 2020 we had a closing stock of 3.7 million cattle. In 2023 we had 5.1 million cattle as Zambia. This is both cattle for private farms and for those that you are providing some form of support. So we had 5.1 million. The target of your ministry is 7 million cattle in the next 2 years. That is the target which has been published on the ministry's website. Minister, are you ambitious enough as a ministry to deal with these concerns coming from members of parliament? Everyone is saying these numbers are too low. Are you ambitious enough? Tell us what you need, what type of support you would need from these members of parliament so that we appear to be a more ambitious country in this particular subsector. Madam Speaker, that is my question to the minister. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, this government is very ambitious. When you look at the current calving rate, we are only at 28%, which is very low if we are to get to the 7.4 million cattle that we intend to reach to. However, as I stated earlier on, we are going to go full throttle on artificial insemination. So this should be able to give us maybe up to 50% of the calving rate. So we should be able to reach the target and maybe even go beyond what we have set as our target submit.
Do you need any assistance from the honorable members? They are willing to assist if you indicate what it is that they can do. You can engage, I believe you can engage later, or the Honorable Minister can think through it. The Honorable Member for Petauke Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, I just wanted to know as to why Petauke Central is not one of the beneficiaries, and what criteria, and at what criteria did you use to select those constituencies who have benefited? Thank you.
Order. The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Madam Speaker, my ministry will not discriminate between Petauke Central if there is any Petauke Rural. Madam Speaker, Eastern Province will be given 125 beef cattle and 2 beef bulls. Okay? These will go to Chisefu, Petauke, Lwangeni, Chipangari, and Chipata Central as submit.
So Petauke is on the list, Honorable Member. The Honorable Member for Pemba.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. My question was not fully answered, Honorable Minister. I understand that the target is you are targeting the cooperatives, but I want to understand what exactly number is targeted for each cooperative when these animals are being shared.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's difficult for me to indicate of cattle that is or that will be given to each particular cooperative. It is from the selection they are going to determine how many cattle or goats or rabbits that will be given to that particular cooperative. And remember, this cooperative should have been in existence for a minimum of 3 years for them to qualify to this program. Submit.
Thank you. There is an indication for a point of order. Honorable Member for Lundazi, what's your point of order?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've been seated here very attentively listening to Honorable Kapala. In his initial statement, he had indicated that Lundazi was going to be. Now, as he's answering the Honorable Minister, he has changed. Lundazi is not appearing anywhere. Madam Speaker, is the Honorable Minister of Livestock in order to be changing names where he's seated there on who should benefit, and yet the whole country and Lundazi constituents and my people in Lundazi have heard that there is an allocation. Just because there was a question from a new member of parliament, he has included Petauke. Madam Speaker, Article 71 says that the information that you give on the floor of the House is supposed to be factual and verifiable. Madam Speaker, I need your serious indulgence because people now have called and they are worried.
The only problem I see is that when you are pointing a accusing finger at somebody, they might decide to change their mind. That's on a lighter note. But I'm sure the Honorable Minister earlier on said Lundazi is included. I'm sure he maybe Petauke. I don't know if Petauke was earlier mentioned. Yes, but the names of the constituencies that were mentioned now and earlier on mentioned, they are all included, so you need not worry. Engage the Honorable Minister if for any reason you are no longer on the list. So the fighting you can do outside. That concludes that, that segment, so we go to the next. Questions for oral answer under Standing Order 80. The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 242.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ms. M. Perry of Olundazi constituency asks the Minister of Education, A, what the criteria for paying rural hardship allowance are, B, whether teachers in Milan's parliamentary constituency are entitled to rural hardship allowance, and C, if so, why teachers are not paid the allowance. Madam Speaker, I wish to inform the House that A, the criteria for the payment of rural hardship allowance are based on the distance of the school from the central business district as prescribed in the collective agreement between the government and teachers' trade unions. You may wish to note that rural hardship allowance applies to schools located between 25 kilometers and 99 kilometers from the central business district, while remote rural hardship allowance applies to schools located 100 kilometers away and beyond. And B, yes, teachers deployed to schools in Milanzi Parliamentary constituency are entitled to rural hardship allowance. And C, some teachers are not receiving the allowance because the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has classified their workstations as urban schools instead of rural schools. You may wish to note that the payroll management establishment and control system can only process the allowance if the school is officially classified as rural, as prescribed in the collective agreement between the government and the teachers' trade unions. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and Honorable Minister, for your response. Honorable Minister, I asked a similar question 2 years ago, and you assured teachers in Milanzi that government was going to address this issue within a year. It's now 2 years. Honorable Minister, we would like to know when this issue will be resolved.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I stated earlier on, to say that it is the Ministry of Lands which prescribes, in accordance with the trade unions agreement, what school is classified as urban and rural. You will appreciate that probably this is a legal problem. I was just looking at when it actually started. It was in 2013. So you can never imagine we were saying that we asked this question a year ago, and we had said that this is what we are going to do. So it's a problem which has just been accumulating. And we all depend on another ministry in order for us to be told. If it was ourselves just by looking, we don't know the coordinates, because they use the coordinates which they use. So if the Ministry of Lands has not yet classified them as, if you like, rural schools, whilst they are classified as urban, there's very little that we can do. We can only pursue this issue again with the Ministry of Lands so that they give us the coordinates. Like I said, it's the distance which determines which one is rural and which is not rural. So it is really a legal problem, because I was just looking back. It is in 2013. You can imagine how many years has gone past. Yeah, it's a big problem, and it's not only in Milanzi. It's almost like the whole country, the classification. And also, the problem was that when people were asking for transfers, they would be transferring from a rural area, they go to urban area, then they get their permit IDs. So even when they are in the urban areas, they are still getting the what. But you know it's very difficult to ascertain if you don't make a big audit issue. We're talking about over 120,000 teachers, and maybe more than 3/4 are rural schools. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, listening to the Honorable Minister, those of us who represent rural constituencies, you would get worried. Because if the classification depends on the Minister of Lands, the Minister of Education should know by now that most of their schools are in rural areas. And I don't think it would have been ideal to depend on the classification from the Minister of Lands. Honorable Minister, how often do you update the data pertaining to this issue of our teachers who are posted in rural areas? And of course, transfers are done. In Milanzi, you know, the teachers move from one point to another. And we would want to know how your system, now that you have gone e-government, you are using, how captured the details of our teachers to ensure that even when there are movements, they don't have to struggle for a long time, you know, to know whether they will be receiving this rural hardship allowance or not. Or in some cases, those who move away from the rural schools continue to receive at the expense of those who are supposed to be receiving. How are you working on the system to ensure that there is real-time capturing of data and information about our teachers in the rural areas? And whether you still want to continue depending on the Minister of Lands, because this will then be a very, very protracted challenge for you, and like you are saying, it could be historical, but I think we need to find the solution. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We are actually doing exactly what you have suggested. So we'll continue doing that. Mind you, I also come from a rural constituency. So I'm equally affected. So we need to robustly work out this issue so that our teachers do not complain a lot. The reason why we had to put the rural hardship allowance and the other allowance, which is too remote, like 100 kilometers, is just to retain the teachers there. Teachers would go to, they don't care about that hardship allowance, they want to go into town. Right? That is where the real problem was. But otherwise, the rural hardship allowance was meant to remain. We came from the rural areas. So this is the mindset that we have need to change about our teachers, to say that even in rural areas, they can come a person of my nature who taught this lady from Rundazi. You can imagine if I was not a town boy, I came from a rural area. But you can see how much I contributed to this country. So our people must be taught that rural areas can produce men and women who can be of help in society. Maybe that is just another nomenclature. Apart from this little motivation of rural hardship allowance, it's just a mindset to change so that you can work anywhere in the country, in the countryside. And then you will be able to be very proud of yourself as a teacher that you produce surgeon in our world. I think that is where we need to really to change the nomenclature and re-engineer and reconfigure our own teachers. And that we are starting with also colleges, say that when you are in a college, you are going to work anywhere in Zambia. Many of our parents came from, sometimes they come from urban areas, they were happy to go and work in a remote area, as long as there are children there. Some of us were found in those remote areas where children were learning there. Look at where we are today. Not only because I'm a politician or a minister, but I've contributed a lot coming from a village. So this is how we must change or reconfigure or re-engineer our own people who, after they were born in a rural area, they come to a town where they do their colleges, They still want now to work down. They forget about where they came from. And this is what we must start now changing our minds ourselves, that we must not shun where we came from. I'm proud to say where I came from myself. Many people run away. Me, I came from a remotest area in this land. But I'm here. Am I not exuding good English? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Milanzi.
Honorable Minister, as you are working on this, capture data on teachers that are serving in rural areas as well as schools that are located in areas, it would be important to know how soon are you completing this exercise. In addition to that, it would also be important to know if you are going to backdate the payment of rural hardship allowance to teachers entitled allowance. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education.
I may not really confirm. Very huge. I'm not going to hide you. Huh? For Milanzi, this issue started in 2013. Just for Milanzi alone. Now, imagine Milanzi and so many constituencies which are classified as rural. I think more than 3/4 are rural. Now, back it, we may not find that money. You start there and then. Because you were there for a long time. I'm still grappling with this other issue on, if you like, upgrades. Huh? When I became minister, I was told there were only 10,000 upgrades. When we did an audit, there were more than 29,000. And it requires 4 billion kwacha in order to bridge that gap. And so with that, because we now did the audit, we are now upgrading people, but slow but sure because of the fiscal space. So even with this rural hardship, whatever, when we finish, I think we will start dismantling. And I on Milanzi, because Milanzi places this is why I'm able to get, for about 2013, they started doing that. Yeah. So if I had my way, rather than making it a national issue, which is, I would probably started with Milanzi because it was a long time ago as a constituency. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lundazi.
It will take a long time. Thank you, Madam Speaker. For Minister of Education, our teachers in rural areas are really sacrificing a lot, and several headcounts have been done. They are suffering from deductions from Zambia State Insurance, where they haven't even subsidized. Honorable Minister, this issue of being paid rural allowance is something we worked on as soon as yesterday. Now, from your answers which you are giving the people of Milanzi, they don't seem to be giving any hope to the people out there who really want to be getting what they are working for. Honorable Minister, have you tried to stage to say maybe you've started with Eastern Province, the Northern Province, and looking at how huge the workload is? Have you maybe categorically said, this year we'll deal with this province, then we'll deal with the other one, or you are just doing it generally? I would want to submit.
The Honorable Minister of Education.
If what you said is what I got, what I'm talking about is do an audit so that we do not say that now we have finished the Eastern Province, now we are going to this other district, now we're going to that. You make, like I said, an example of, I was only told that there were only 10,000. we did an audit of more than 1,000. How many that you are able now to say that prioritize, for example. So that general thing that you're thinking about, it points to now deal with to have a holistic statistic, and then we can say that even the fiscal space, we can start anyway. But then meaning that the other people would be assured to say that the next time it is us, or the next time it is this, but you must have a, okay? Like for example, right, so that we are able to know that what we are going to spend on, even when you are budgeting, you know that this year we are offloading how many people? This year, how many are we upgrading? The next year, it is this. So once you have that statistic, then you are now chopping down. Just like the way we have done into the recruitment of teachers. At first, we did not know how many teachers were on the street. We did an audit, we realized there was this much. So how many are we going to recruit this year? We are going to recruit this much against the backdrop of this number. How many are graduating every year? Track the numbers that we have already recruited, you know the numbers that are going back. Are you stuck with the same numbers even when you have employed more? So you find that they are decreasing, but at some point when they graduate, they increase slightly. So you have a national statistic, and then you use that in order to ameliorate a few things that are remaining. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member for Chama North joining us virtually.
Madam Speaker, I have a question.
There was an
Madam
indication.
Speaker.
There was an indication. Okay, then the Honorable Member for Kamfisa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Minister of Education, you are privileged to head a very important ministry in Zambia. And there's this issue which is coming from Milanzi, which affects so many other places. From your report this afternoon, there is work that has to be done before this implementation is undertaken. And you've indicated, Madam Speaker, the Minister has indicated that they don't want to isolate one district or one constituency. They would prefer to do it holistically. Minister, in terms of planning, have you been able to schedule when you will be able to be satisfied that now we have all the data that we need, we are now ready to implement? Are we looking at 3 years? Are we looking at 12 months? Are we looking at 5 years? When do you think you would be able to say, now we have the statistics that will inform our decision? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Education.
That's a very new question. Okay, but I'll answer you this way. The statistical bulletin, they are still gathering. You know, the statistical bulletin for education were once done, I think, some 6, 7 years ago. And so we are not up to date. And you can only plan if you have put data, so that you make informed choices or informed decisions. So once that statistical bulletin comes on, and then we continuously update it, right? First of all, you have a statistical bulletin, and then you start now updating, so that you don't lie behind. Because now we are almost 7, 8 years behind. And so sometimes maybe decisions were being made without statistics. You crash land before you take off if you do not have data on your fingertips. So if you just now because I have received this from Milan, of course for Milan, it is clear, right? And probably we need to, because these are agreements which were done by, collective agreement by the government and teachers' unions. They agreed on what is going to be classified as hardship allowance and also rural hardship allowance, because there are 2 hardship allowance, rural hardship allowance, which is 100 kilometers away from CBD. So what we require is actually to have data to make decisions which are informed. If you plan without data, you are going to make decisions which are going to fail to work out. So just be on the lookout. I'll invite you whenever the statistical bulletin is there. And I think everything will be contained inside there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question, the Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Question 243.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Honourable Member for Nyimba, Honourable Menyani Zulu, is asking us at the Ministry the following questions. A, whether the government has any plans to construct a bridge across the Belita River on the Vizimumbo Chimpanji Road in the Nyimba Parliamentary constituency. B, if so, when plans will be implemented. C, what the estimated cost of the project is. And D, if there are no such plans, why? Madam Speaker, we answer as follows. A, the government has plans to construct a bridge across the Belita River on the Vizimumba to Chimpanji Road in the Nyimba Parliamentary constituency. The plan will be implemented once Treasury source secures the required funds. C, the estimated cost of the required works is 2,474,541 kwacha 33 ngwe. And D, as indicated in A, government has plans to construct a bridge across the Belita River. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Supplementary questions, the Honorable Member for Nyimba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's good to hear today, Minister, have given me a very positive answer. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, it's sad that the question has taken so long, and I know the Minister has done what we call 1-0 on me, because he knows that the contractor is almost on site. Thank you, Madam.
Overtaken by events, I think we make progress, isn't it? Okay. So you have not equalized. Eh? Next question, the Honorable Member for Dudumwezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Question 244.
The Honorable Minister of Fisheries and Livestock.
Honorable Edgar Singombe, MP for Dudumwezi, to ask the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock whether government has any plans to create veterinary camps in the following wards in Dudumwezi Parliamentary constituency. A, Mikata, B, Chamoka, and C, Katanda. Madam Speaker, our response is as follows. The House may wish to note that my ministry is aware that the existing veterinary camps in Dudumwezi Parliamentary constituency and indeed across the country cover a large area of between 50 kilometers to 100 kilometers radius. For example, one veterinary camp can cover between 3 to 5 wards in size. Given such vast areas, the delivery of veterinary services is sometimes compromised due to distances that our veterinary officers have to cover to reach farmers, coupled with a large number of cattle populations in these camps. To this end, government has adopted a policy to redemarcate veterinary camps with a focus on aligning them to wards. The ministry has produced an atlas that will be used in the redemarcation process. Through this policy, we aim to enhance the provision of veterinary services by restructuring the camps nationwide, making them more manageable in size. Additionally, the redemarcation will facilitate the employment of additional staff to reinforce the existing workforce on the ground. It is our hope that by implementing these strategic changes, we will elevate the quality of veterinary services provided and ensure more efficient management of the camps. This, in turn, would lead to enhanced support for our farmers and the livestock population within the camps. Madam Speaker, the House may wish to note that despite challenges associated with the current vastness of our veterinary camps, all wards in Dudumwezi parliamentary constituency, though not aligned to ward boundaries, belong to established veterinary camps. These wards belong to the following camps. So for wards Naluja, Bilili, Katanda, they belong to veterinary camp number 3. Chamuka belongs to Chifusa. Naluja belongs to Siachitema. Mikata, Kasukwe, Bilili, Oma, Kandanzovu camp. Yeah. Mikata to second Mikata again to Lungunya veterinary camp. Kasukwe and Chamuka also has got Munyeke. Madam Speaker, I submit.
Thank you. Supplementary questions. The Honorable Member for Dudumwezi.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, you indicated in your ministerial statement this afternoon that you will be restocking animals, and Southern Province will be given about 200 plus animals. Don't you think, Honorable Minister, it is imperative that you create more veterinary camps in Dundumwezi, especially that Dundumwezi borders with Kafue National Park, and it is disadvantaged in terms of veterinary camps. And the information that we've given, Munyeke we have no veterinary camp. And most of those camps that we have indicated are actually in Kalomo Central. Don't you think we deserve a number of veterinary camps in those areas?
Order. As the time is 16:40 hours, I suspend business for 20 minutes for a health break.
Parliamentary television, the station dedicated to bringing Parliament closer to you. Business did start at 14:08 hours, and the business has been suspended for 20 minutes for the break. And at the time this was suspended, Mr. Edgar Singombe, Dundumwezi Member of Parliament, was asking a supplementary question. And before we take a break, this is question 244 from Mr. Edgar Singombe. When business resumed at 14:08 hours, Madam Speaker did make a few announcements, and in the first announcement, she did recognize the presence in the Speaker's Gallery of a member of staff from the Parliament of Uganda, Ms. Martha M. Kangazi, Assistant Director in the Office of the Leader of Government Business, and she also did recognize the presence of pupils and teachers from Phoenix Pre and Primary School in Lusaka District.
Madam Speaker, also did recognize the public gallery of pupils and teachers from Kaunda Square Secondary School in Lusaka District, and pupils and teachers from Lake Road PTA School in Lusaka District. So on behalf of the National Assembly of Zambia, Madam Speaker warmly welcomed the visitors. We did see the two ministerial statements being delivered on the floor of the House. The first one did come from Her Honor the Vice President on the floods affecting some parts of the country, and the other ministerial statement came from the Minister of Fisheries and Livestock on the planned restocking of livestock in all parliamentary constituencies. Thereafter, the House went on to consider questions for oral answer understanding order number 80. 4 are supposed to be considered, and so far they have considered 2 questions for oral answer understanding order number 80. We'll be back with more information right after this break.